Om Gyan, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today, Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to talk about two personalities first. It's the disappearance day of Srila Jiva Goswami and also of Jagadish Pandit. So Jiva Goswami is one of the six Goswamis. There's Sanatan, Rupa, Raghunath Das, Gopal Bhatt, and Raghunath Bhatt Goswamis. And Jiva Goswami is the youngest of all of them. And he's got a fascinating life history. So we shall have a glimpse into his life. And I like to seek everybody's blessings and good wishes that we also get the blessings of Jiva Goswami, who was a great scholar and a devotee at the same time. So he was the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. They were the two leaders of the Goswamis. And he was the son actually of their brother, Anupam, born in the year 1511 in Ramakeli, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually first met Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. And he displayed all the charming features of a Mahapurush, divine person. He had lotus eyes, he had a high nose, forehead, broad chest, long arms, and radiant golden body. So when he was a baby, Rupa and Sanatan Goswami placed him at the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu, who then touched him with his lotus feet. And Jiva Goswami remembers a vague recollection of that moment. Must have been a glorious moment. He engaged in pure devotional activities from his very childhood. Averse to mundane sports, Jiva would make images of Krishna and Balaram, dress and decorate them with flowers and jewels. He would offer them sandalwood pulp and pay his obeisances. He always had tears in his eyes. He would offer them sweets and then take prasad, distribute to the friends from a very young age. He was very attached to them, so attached that at bedtime he would embrace his deities and fall asleep. His parents thought that he was just playing, but actually this was for real. And the villagers used to rejoice to see Jiva Goswami's love for Krishna and Balaram. Rupa Goswami made arrangements for his education, and he learned very quickly. He was a great scholar. He learned Bengali, Sanskrit, Urdu, Arabic, Farsi, and especially in Sanskrit, he was an unparalleled scholar. In school, he mastered poetry, logic, philosophy, and the Bhagavatam was his life. Krishna Katha filled him with happiness. No one dared to speak to him about anything but Krishna. He dreamt of Lord Chaitanya, and after the age of 20, he left home to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Gauranga had already left for the spiritual world by that time, and he was devastated, as was everybody. But he did meet Nityananda, and by the grace of Lord Nityananda, he visited all the different holy places in Navadvip Dham. There was a lot. And Nityananda revealed many things to Jiva Goswami. And one of the things he revealed was about this glorious temple that Nityananda predicted would rise in Mayapur. And that's the TOVP. Lord Nityananda blessed him by affectionately placing his feet on his head and ordered him to go to Varanasi to study the Vedanta Sutra and then go to Vrindavan. So that's what he did. He went to Varanasi. He studied with Madhusudan Vachaspati, who was a disciple of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And then he went to Vrindavan and he came under the tutelage of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. So after humbly serving Rupa Goswami by washing his feet, preparing his manuscripts, and editing his books, he received initiation. So he was very humble. And there was a wonderful pastime that took place between Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and Jiva Goswami. Once during summer, Rupa was writing Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, and at that time, Jiva Goswami was serving him, and a very senior devotee, Vallabhacharya, came to meet Rupa Goswami. So Vallabhacharya is a devotee in the Pushti Marg, a very amazing soul. And so after reading some of Rupa Goswami's introductory verses, Vallabhacharya suggests some corrections. So when Vallabhacharya, after that, he went to the Yamuna to take a bath. At that time, Jiva Goswami, who was fanning Rupa at that time, and he heard about these corrections. So Jiva, he followed Vallabhacharya to the Ganga, or Yamuna, sorry. And there he confronted Vallabhacharya, and he said to Vallabhacharya that the faults you apparently found in Rupa's verses are not there. And he debated with Vallabhacharya, and he pointed out the flaws in Vallabhacharya's arguments. And Vallabhacharya was very impressed. And he returned back to Rupa Goswami, and he said to Rupa Goswami that I apologize for my error, that actually there is no mistakes in what you've written. And Rupa Goswami asked him, why do you say that? Because your young disciple, Jiva, corrected me. So then Vallabhacharya left, and Rupa Goswami, he actually rebuked Jiva Goswami, that you should have actually tolerated Vallabhacharya. He's older than us, he's a learned Vaishnava. Why did you do this? So he told him, you should go back to Bengal, leave Vrindavan. And when you are ready, again, come back. When you become a little bit more humble, come back. Actually, he didn't do anything wrong because he defended his spiritual master. But Rupa Goswami was just setting an example. Thus, banished from his presence, Jiva left Rupa Goswami's dwelling, and rather than going back to his family home, as he had been told, went to Nandgat, a nearby village. Hoping to regain his guru's favor, he began to practice rigorous austerities, worshipping Krishna intensely while fasting and eating only a bare minimum. As a result of severe penance, his body became emaciated. On one day, Sanatana Goswami came and saw him and his condition. And he took Jiva to Rupa Goswami, and on behalf of Jiva Goswami, he arbitrated. And he explained that actually this boy hasn't done anything wrong. You should show your affection to him and bless him. He's doing such tapasya. And of course, Rupa Goswami's heart melted. So Prabhupada once commented that this is the guru-disciple pastime. Rupa Goswami was actually happy inside because he knew that Jiva Goswami was such a wonderful, learned devotee of the Lord. But he cast him out just to teach us, the devotees of today, a lesson. It was not done to punish or teach Jiva, who was a perfected soul. But he sent Jiva out of Vrindavan to teach us what he wrote in Upadeshamrita. Vacho Vegam, Manaso Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam. Devotee should control his tongue, his speech, and always remain humble. So that's an interesting pastime, and it's an interesting message to send to us. Jiva Goswami was the youngest but most prolific writer amongst the Goswamis. He wrote 500,000 Sanskrit verses, about 25 books. And he would compose these verses in his mind, write them down without changing anything. He was such a scholar. And of course, when we say write them down, he used to use a metal stylus to permanently etch them into palm leaves. So you couldn't just use a rubber or something if you made a mistake. And his writings are still there, they're preserved in the Vrindavan Institute. So this inscription method left no room for erasing, editing, rewriting, or running a spell check. Yet each verse was a priceless gem of perfect meter, rhythm, poetry, and meaning. He was the greatest philosopher of all of Bharatiya history. Contemporary Sanskritists call him the greatest scholar who ever lived. His books show that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy gives the essence of Vedic wisdom and the perfection of religion. Anyone who faithfully reads these books will become a devotee of Krishna. Some of his books, most important works, are Satsam Sandarbha, which describes the ultimate end of devotional service, establishing these transcendental truths of Bhagavatam, and also confirms Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the cause of everything and source of all the avatars. He also wrote the Gopal Champu, which we use quite a lot. It's the description of Vrindavan in the spiritual world. And he's an authority because he's one of the Manjaris. I think it's Vilas Manjari. He also wrote the Hari Nam Vyakarana, which is Sanskrit grammar. Every Sanskrit word and every letter was understood to indicate Krishna, and the nectar and name of Sri Hari. And this is an example of his work in the Gopal Champu. He's written like this: from Govardhan hill, a large form of Govardhan manifested. Krishna manifested. All the Brajabasis, along with Krishna himself, then offered obeisances to that towering form. As Sri Krishna stood by folded hands, that great personality, Govardhan, bellowed, I shall eat all your offerings. He ate and drank water by emptying all the kunds round the hill. While eating all the preparations made by the Brajabasis with his right hand, he'd snap the fingers of his left hand. The cowherd men ran out of the way when Govardhan stretched out his hands to take more and called out, Aniyo, 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 bring more, bring more, bring more. So a devotee called Satyanarayan Das, he translated the Sandarbhas into English for Hare Krishna movement, and he gave this explanation of the name of Jiva. Because the unusual name, Jiva. Jiva is a soul. So how did that name, how does it come about? Actually, Sri Jiva Goswami's name, Jiva, is very interesting when considered in light of the Bhagavad verse, Ahastani sahastanam apadani chatuspadam jivo jivasya jivanam. Animals without hands are food for those with hands. Those with feet, without feet, are food for the four-legged. Everywhere, one jiva, living entity, is food for another. So another meaning of jiva is one who gives life to others. So that's very interesting. Through his books, through his example, he gives life to us. So the spiritual knowledge given by Jiva Goswami in these 25 books gives life to the devotees. Another name of Jiva is Jivaka, one who makes the jivas, living entities, emit ecstatic sounds, i.e., chanting the holy names. Sri Jiva Goswami did this by supplying the esoteric meaning of Bhagavatam through the Bhagavad commentaries and the Sat Sandarbhas. One who explains the nature of the jivas, his relationship with the Lord, the process to achieve the goal, and the ultimate purpose of life is Jivakan, Jiva. After the disappearance of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami became the Gaudiya Sampradayacharya to guide all the Vaishnavas in Navadvip, Vrindavan, in Jagannath Puri. Although he was the undisputed leader, he always acted as a humble servant of all the jivas. Whenever Bengali Vaishnavas visited Vrindavan, he would lovingly receive them, arrange for prasad and comfortable rooms, and even guide them on Brajmandal Parikram. At the request of Acharya Rani, Jahnavi Devi Thakurani. So she was actually the senior most, because Lord Nityananda had left, and Jahnava Devi was considered to be, was his wife, his eternal consort, and the most senior Vaishnava at that time. So she would advise Jiva Goswami. She would advise these younger devotees, Srinivasacharya, Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda Prabhu. So they these three, as we've read about before, talked about before, they took the Goswami's writings from Vrindavan to Bengal, and they were translated from Sanskrit into Bengali, and they were distributed all over Bengal and Orissa. So in 1542, Jiva Goswami established a worship of Shishi Radha Damodar in Sevakunj, Vrindavan. So these are beautiful deities of Radha Damodar. And I presume everybody here will have more or less had darshan of Radha Damodar in Vrindavan. Very famous temple, especially for those who are connected to Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada stayed there for many, many years and translated the Srimad Bhagavatam there. And there are still rooms which are maintained by Hare Krishna movement in that temple, which are a memorial to Srila Prabhupada. So these deities, Radha Damodar, he established them. Jiva Goswami, very beautiful deities. His samadhi stands in the temple compound. Jiva Goswami is Vilas Manjariya in Radha Damodar's Nitya Leela Vrindavan Leela. Jiva Goswami appeared on Bhadra Shukla Dwadasi. So today is his disappearance day. Pausha Shukla Tritya. And this is his samadhi or Bhajan Kuti, I can't remember which one now, in the Radha Damodar temple. So that's pastime of Radha Damodar, a very beautiful, amazing devotee. And we owe him a great deal because he provided so much spiritual knowledge and information. And Prabhupada would often quote him in his works. Any comments or any questions? Okay, then we can look at the second personality today, who is Jagadish Pandit. Very fascinating, another fascinating personality. So this is verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chanda, Jaya Gora Bhattavinda, Jagadisha Pandita, Haya Jagat Pavana, Krishna Premamrita Varshe, Yena Varsha Gala. And the translation is, Jagadish Pandit, the 15th branch of Lord Nityananda's followers, was the deliverer of the entire world. Oh, you can't see this, can you? Devotional service, devotional love of Krishna showered from him like torrents of rain. So who was this Jagadish Pandit? He was born in the town of Guwahati in modern Assam. His father's name was Kamalak Shah Bhatta, and both of his parents were devotees of Vishnu. When they passed away, he came with his wife, Dukhini, and his brother Hiranya to Mayapur on the shores of the Ganga, where they built a house near that of Jagannath Mishra. Who's Jagannath Mishra? Can I ask? Anybody know?
The father of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Good. It's a tie between you two. Very good. That's right. Chai is the father of Lord Chaitanya, Gauranga or Nimai. Jagadish Pandit became Jagannath Mishra's very close friend. So they became good buddies. Jagadish and his wife, Dukhini, had the same kind of parental affection for little Nimai. So Nimai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was known as Nimai. He was named Nimai because he was born under a neem tree. And his father was Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi. Dukhini was like a mother to Nimai, and even sometimes acted as his wet mother. She would feed him. Nimai, the son of Sachi, is none other than the son of Yashoda, as we know, it's Krishna himself. And it's not possible for anyone but an eternal associate of the Lord to have the good fortune to treat him like a son in this way. So this is, we know this as well from the Damodar pastimes. Yashoda was no ordinary person. She was eternally liberated personality who always is the mother of Krishna. So is Sachidevi, one and the same person. Nimai begs for Jagadish's offering. So one time there was a wonderful pastime. Gauranga showed through his pastimes how dear he considered Jagadish Pandit to be. Gauranga is the father of Sankirtan, and even as a child, he tricked everyone into chanting the holy names. So he used to cry, and they would chant Krishna's name and he would stop. But one time, he continued crying, even when they were chanting Krishna's names. So, and it was the day of Ekadashi. And the parents were really confused and they were asking the child, what do you want? How can we make you stop crying? So Nimai said, Jagadish Babu has a rice offering and I want to eat that prasad. Bring that prasad for me. And the parents were surprised. Jagannath Mishra was amazed. How can he even know this? So he went to Jagadish's house and he was amazed. He saw there was a large offering of rice that was made for their deity, the Vishnu deity. Of course, in Ekadashi, it's fasting, but the Lord doesn't fast. So they made food for the Lord to eat, this large plate of rice. Jagannath told Jagadish of Nimai's request, adding that he was worried that it would not be correct for Nimai to eat rice on Ekadashi day. But Jagadish Pandit knew that actually it was little Gopal, Krishna, in the form of Nimai, who was hungry. Without any hesitation, he gave the entire offering to Jagannath Mishra. And as soon as Nimai received the plate, he stopped crying and he joyfully started to eat. So this pastime is described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adikanda. Also, there's a little description in the Chaitanya Charitamrita written by Krishnadas Kaviraj. And this is amazing because this is the kindness of the Lord. He grabs the things of the devotees, even if the devotee doesn't offer them. Like, can somebody give me another example of where Krishna took by force something the devotee didn't want to give him? Anybody? Give me an example.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, go ahead. Come on.
Sudama and the Tando, he was
Fantastic.
hiding it, but Krishna knew about it and he snatched it off him.
Brilliant, brilliant. What a wonderful pastime. Thank you. But he shows no interest. Krishna shows no interest whatsoever in the gifts of non-devotees. Just as Mahaprabhu was conquered by the devotion of Jagadish Pandit, so too was his dearest companion, Nityananda, who considered him to be one of his most intimate associates. Nityananda Prabhu was Jagadish's life and soul. Jagadish was present in Panihati for the Chir Dadi Motsava. And there was another pastime, which is amazing pastime. So before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas in the year 1500, he told Jagadish to go to Jagannath Puri to preach Krishna Katha, Krishna Bhakti. So when Jagadish arrived in Mayapur and he went for the darshan of Lord Jagannath, he was completely mesmerized. He was in ecstasy, pure love of Krishna. So he then on the way back to Bengal, because he stayed there for some time and then he decided to go back to Bengal, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But he felt extreme separation from Jagannath. This is a really nice mood. Sometimes we go to a holy place and we leave that holy place not to think about it again. But actually, Jagadish Pandit showed the way. If we go to a holy place and we have darshan of beautiful deities, then we should feel separation for it somehow. That I can't see Jagannath anymore. So just like that, Jagadish was lamenting. And he was crying so much that Lord Jagannath appeared in a dream to him and said to him, you can take my vigraha, you can take my deity, my form, and serve me. At the same time, Jagannath appeared to the Maharaj of Orissa, who manages or is in charge of the temple. And he ordered him that at the time of Nava Kalevara, this is where the deities get changed every, I don't know, I can't remember now, 12 or 14 years, the deities of Jagannath are changed. So he came to the dream and he said, give my old form to Jagadish Pandit. So when the king, he met with Jagadish, and he considered it a great honor because in a dream he had received this instruction from Jagannath. So, and this outgoing form is called the Samadhi Sta Vigraha. Normally what they would do with the form is they would bury it under the ground in the Jagannath temple vicinity, within the temple compound. But this one, they gave to Jagadish. Now Jagadish prayed to Jagannath, asking him, how could he possibly carry the heavy figure of the deity all the way back to Bengal? Because he's not small, he's huge. And we've seen in the Jagannath Puri Rath Yatra time, it takes so many devotees to actually lift him and take him. Of course, it said that Jagannath is walking himself in a swagger, but he's not light. But he said to Jagadish, he would become as light as a cork. Cork is very light, right? And Jagadish should simply cover him with a new cloth and carry him with the help of a shaft, so a long stick. And he also said to Jagadish that you must make permanent arrangements for me to stay wherever I am set down on the ground. So Jagadish enlisted the aid of 2 Brahmins, and they took turns carrying Jagannath as far as the village of Jashora on the banks of the Ganga, near the town of Chakdha. Jagadish left Jagannath with one of the Brahmins and went to take his bath in the Ganga. Suddenly, the Brahmin found that Jagannath was becoming very heavy, and he no longer was able to hold him up. Thus, when Jagadish came back from his bath, he saw Jagannath sitting on the ground and realized that the Lord wanted to stay in that very spot. Now, this Chakdaha is a historic site and it's an ancient holy place. During the Puranic age, it was known as Rathavarma. Pradumna, the grandson of Krishna, killed the demon Sambara there during Krishna's incarnation at the time of Dwapar Yuga. And thus it is known as Padumna Nagar. Prior to that, when Bhagarita, who we talked about yesterday, was bringing down the Ganga in order to save the Sagar dynasty, he buried the wheel of his chariot in this place, Chakdaha. Thus the town was also given the name as Chakradaha, which in time has been transformed to Chakdaha. Very interesting. When the local people heard that Jagannath deity from Puri had come to stay in Jashora, they flocked there in their thousands to seek his darshan. This is how Jagadish decided to remain in Jashora rather than return to his home in Mayapur. So he stayed with Jagannath. How blessed. Both Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the Jagannath temple in Jashora on 2 occasions. Being attracted by Jagadish Pandit and his wife's paternal devotion. Parental, sorry. They held Sankirtan and a feast both times. So twice Nityananda and Chaitanya went to see Jagannath and also Jagadish Pandit. As the Lord was about to leave Yashora to go to Puri, Dukhini began to cry from the imminent separation so intensely that the Lord agreed to remain behind in the form of Gaur Gopal deity. So at first, this Jagannath deity was kept under a butter tree near the Ganga. And later, the king of Krishnanagar, Krishna Chandra, he built a temple there for him. Jagadish Pandit's temple is currently being managed by the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math. So this is the temples that were set up by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So they are managing this beautiful temple. In the course of the couple's household life, they had a son named Ramabhadra Goswami. So this is the Jagannath deity. Lord Jagannath ki jai. It's a really glorious, glorious deity. I have been there in Chakdaha. And this is the deity that came to the dream of Jagadish Pandit to take him. And Jagadish Pandit took him. And this is the really amazing, amazing pastime. And this is the temple from outside. And these are the beautiful domes. So that's the pastime of Jagadish Pandit. So, any questions or any comments on the pastimes of either Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami or Jagadish Pandit?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Nanivan?
So the temple is still there now?
Yes.
With the deity of Lord Jagannath?
Yeah, it's still worshipped.
So sorry?
Still worshipped.
Oh, and he's only one there without Balram and Subhadra?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is which part is it? Is in Bengal? This.
It's on the way to Mayapur. Yes, it's in Bengal.
Okay. Okay. So
yeah, we'll have to seek it out one day and go there.
We'll go there. Yes. After the lockdown, definitely. Okay. Thank you.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda themselves went there.
Yes.
And they had darshan of this beautiful deity.
And
it shows how the deity reciprocates with the devotees. Sometimes we think this is just some wood or stone or metal, but actually the deity is alive.
Yes. Yeah. Very nice.
Very good example.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Madhusudan Babu?
Yeah, Haribol, Krishna. Yeah, I remember, when I went to Mayapur years ago, there was only a guest house and the singer there, just a bhajan kutir of Prabhupada and all that. And it was very, very, the beginning, early days. And then we had to go and take a rickshaw all the way to this Jagannath deities that used to be. And this was the temple. And then at that time, they were in a very kind of strange, remote place, where we had to go. And then quite a bit of distance from the actual Mayapur temple, and the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya and everything. And then next time I went, then obviously ISKCON is looking after that temple a bit more now. I think because it was a bit kind of not neglected, but just simple worship. It was in a very remote place. And I remember taking a bicycle rickshaw, 3 of us. And it's amazing deities, those, so now they are being worshipped a bit more. And those Jagannath deities, they say, every 12 years they change they have to find the right kind of wood because they're made out of wooden deities, aren't they? But they're very heavy. And when they do every 12 years, when they do change the deities, the whole Jagannath temple, there's no electricity, there's no birds, no flying, anything around it. There's a very amazing atmosphere that happens when they do change those deities in Jagannath Puri. Amazing.
These deities,
I remember having darshan of these deities then.
These are different though. This is the ones you're talking about is Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, and they are in Rajapur near the Mayapur temple. It's probably about 3-4 kilometers away from the Mayapur temple. And you're right, they were gifted the temple was gifted to so that they can be properly looked after. And now the Mayapur temple is really looking after them beautiful. But these are This deity and this temple,
Yeah.
Chakdaha, is actually looked after by the Gaudiya Math, the Chaitanya
Yeah.
Math. And these deities are different. They are somewhere else. But the deities that you mean, Rajapura, of Lord
Yeah.
Jagannath, are amazing deities. You know, it's said that anything you desire in front of them, it comes true. And I had a really extraordinary experience there one time, probably
Mm.
about good 10, 12 years back, maybe more. No, not so long, probably about 8 years. I went there with Avadesh, one of the devotees here. And I was just standing at the back having darshan. And I just had a little desire. It would be great to sing for you, Lord. And of course, I can't sing very well anyway. But I just had that little desire. And there was a devotee leading at that time. And there was a whole group of them that come from Orissa. And suddenly the devotee turned around. And I was right at the back. He pointed to me and he said, "Come and chant." And we were just amazed. I couldn't believe it. So I came to the front and I was singing the holy names, and it was just the most extraordinary experience. He'd never known me, this devotee. I'd never seen them in my life. But somehow he just turned around and he pointed to me and he said, "Come and chant."
Yeah, amazing. I know.
Amazing, Guruji. Wow.
Amazing. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it.
So these deities are somewhere far away from Mayapur?
Don't know
Some
exactly the
distance or what?
location. Yeah, but they're not too close. Not sure exact location, but in Bengal, but not as close as the Rajapura Mandir, the Jagannath temple.
But the slide you showed of the building, I do remember having.
Oh yeah, but no,
gone there.
it's a different one. Yeah, it's a different one. It's this is it looks similar. You're right. It looks similar, but this is different.
Yeah.
This is here. It says here, Chakdaha, the home of Jagadish Pandit. Yeah, this is in Jashra.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mind you, yeah, I might have gone because you
It looks
do go
similar.
on a
It looks
parikrama
similar.
around.
No,
So,
you're right. It looks very similar, actually.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully one day.
Yeah, one day we gotta get there.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you
Hare
so much.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I ask a question?
Yes, Arunji.
I may have missed it, sorry, because I joined late. I noticed through the deities, Radha Krishna, Radha's on the other side.
Oh, okay. 1 second.
Do you know?
Yeah, let me just have a look. Let me just bring it up. Okay, here. You mean here?
Yes.
That's right. This looks like Krishna. I don't think Radharani is here.
So they're both Krishna then. Oh, okay. I thought one was Krishna, one was Radharani.
Yeah, I think because he's got his hand up to hold a flute, as has he. And generally at that time, the worship of Radharani was a little bit less. It was more either Krishna on his own or Gauranga or Gaur Gadadhar was mainly worshipped. Radharani was a little bit less. So, for example, they were Radharani's worship has been established mainly by the 6 Goswamis. Let me just show you. Sorry, Arvind, was that the question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, that's all it was. So they're both Krishna. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Let me just show you. We also talked about Rupa Goswami today, and if you see, he established the deity of Radha Damodar, and this is the deity of Radha Damodar. I'll just bring it up. In Vrindavan, and this is such a magnificent deity. And there is there's Radharani, and there's also I think this is Ananga Manjari, who is the sister of Srimati Radharani. So these are beautiful deities established in Vrindavan by Jiva Goswami. And in this temple, I was just saying to the devotees earlier that Srila Prabhupada stayed here before coming to the West. And he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, in this temple. And he lived here for many years, very humbly. And every night, not necessarily every night, but many, many times he would be, middle of the night, he would be crying and sweeping the courtyard of where the Goswami's Samadhi and Bhajan Kutis are. And he would be crying out loud, please let me fulfill the impossible task, mission that my spiritual master has ordered me to do, i.e. to come to the West and preach Krishna consciousness. So, and one devotee, this is before anybody knew Prabhupada, one day he was hearing this crying and all that. So he went out and was wondering, who is this? So he saw, oh, Prabhupada. No, he wasn't known as Prabhupada, he was known as Abhay Babu. Abhay Babu was crying like this for the mercy of the Goswamis. So actually it said that without really crying and begging for the mercy of the Lord, crying for the blessings of the devotees, we won't get it. So,
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, Prabhuji, sorry to interrupt.
yes.
There was some lovely YouTube video during Damodar month that Radhanath Swami, there was devotee, and they gave the whole history about all the temples in Vrindavan and the history, and they spoke about this as well. It was amazing. If you devotees would like to have a look, there were amazing videos.
Very good, very good. And what did he say? Do you remember specifically?
Not specifically, but they gave example. There was one gentleman, a devotee who lived there, and he knew everything. And they went through all the temples, and they gave full history of all the deities, even where Srila Prabhupada stayed before he left for Vrindavan. Before he left Vrindavan to go to the US, it was just amazing.
Yeah, no, those pastimes are something else. Sure. Lot to learn from them, because this is how we get the blessings and the mercy of the Lord. If we simply think it's going to just come just like that, we should think again. We really have to make an effort to seek the blessing, and then whether it comes or not, that's the Lord's prerogative, but we have to make the effort. Okay, very good. Rianch, yes. We can't hear you, Rianch. I can't hear you. You're whispering. Anyway, we're not going to get to the Bhagavatam today. Apologies, but these two life histories, which we briefly looked at, of Jiva Goswami and Jagannath Pandit, are truly extraordinary and very inspirational. So I hope devotees got something out of this. We'll continue with the Bhagavatam on Monday, 18th chapter onwards, 18, 19, and maybe 20 as well. We'll see how it goes. And I hope devotees are able to read. These are really quite challenging chapters of the Bhagavatam. And I will understand if devotees sort of struggle through them, because I'm struggling through them. But they are interesting chapters. And tomorrow we're going to look at the subject matter of how to make something material into spiritual. So should be hopefully quite interesting. Okay, if there's no more questions or comments, we can go to the Nrsimha Kavach, and we can seek the blessings of Lord Nrsimha there, especially for some devotees we want to remember.